And I have to say this, like not everybody, owning a home or a condo is not for everybody. I understand that. But for a lot of us, purchasing your own home or condo is going to be the biggest investment of your life, right? So it's important to understand mortgages and as much as you can. Okay, so here we go. I will give you some notes here. I left it blank because when I made this booklet, I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to run this, but I'm going to give you some points, and you need to write this down. Okay, buying a home or a condominium, right? You probably already know a lot of this because some of you have these conversations at home, right? You need a down payment. Anybody know what the minimum down payment is, percentage wise? A wild guess? 15%? It's that would be awesome, but it's not required to have that much. Anybody else say something here? 5%. 5% is the bare, like it's like the minimum. The banks will not give you a mortgage until you have a 5% down payment. You know, down payment. So I will do this. 5 to 10% is recommended, right, to have saved up. Okay. This is subtracted from the price. The rest is financed. This loan, I'm trying to be conservative with my space because I have more down there. This loan is called a mortgage. So mortgage is just the name we give a loan that goes towards real estate in particular. And it's a lot safer for banks to give you a loan towards a house because they know they can recoup their losses should you default. Meaning, should you not be able to pay, they will just come in, they will sell it and get their money back because they know it's appreciating, right? A house in general goes up. Yes, it will go down every once in a while, but the general trend, if you could graph it, it would be up. Okay. Um, the term of the mortgage is called the amortization period. Okay, this is important. Mortgage amortization, the term, it's usually 20 to 25 years. Most people take out their first mortgage and they span it over 25 years. Okay? So there we go. Some of the expenses. I will actually talk about the pros. Buying. Right? I'll just talk about the pros, and you can come up with the cons when you read through this. You will be able to come up with that on your own. When you buy, a property, you gain what we call, this is huge, guys, you gain equity. Sometimes it's called you build equity, but this word is very important to me. That's like one of the biggest reasons why I would suggest you buying a home. You build equity. Equity is the part of the house you own when you sell. That's what equity is. The part of the house you own when you sell. So you know that at the beginning you own very little of it, but over time you pay off, so you start owning more and more. But what also happens to the value of the home as time goes by, right? So if you could imagine this, right? I don't want to use up this space here. I just want you to have another go at it here. So imagine you buy a home for 350K, right? And you're slowly, like if you consider the slices, that's what you're paying off, right? So you're paying off, you're paying off, you're paying off. Time goes by, right? And if you then consider this to be the 350,000 mark, your house is slowly going up in value after time, right? So over, I don't know, let's say 10 years, this house might actually be worth $400,000, right? At the same time, if you look at what you owe them, right, owe the bank, that is going down over time, right? So at any given point, there's the value of the home up top, and there's what you owe the bank at the bottom. And if you can slice this off, take that away, right? And the rest is called equity. Like this is what you would actually have in your pocket should you sell at any given moment. And this bar keeps going bigger and bigger over time. And at some point you owe zero, hopefully. You owe nothing, right? So the entire value of the home is yours. Right? Why would you say is equity important? Banks love, if you have equity, you have a lot of power in terms of loans. You can say, hey, I want to buy a car. I want to buy a car right now. They're like, sure. You have $200,000 worth of equity, Mr. Dirksen. Go ahead, buy. You can buy a car, camper, a boat, whatever you want. We have lots of money here. That is their backup. That is their collateral, right? So they're more than willing to give you a loan without even like I did stuff over email. Like I want to buy a camper. Sure, you're approved. Go ahead and buy it, right? They put it in your there's something called equity line of credit, ELOC. There's line of credit, but then there's equity line of credit, which is based on how much of the house you own. And so you can go and buy whatever you want. Just take the money from this account. You have a checking account, right? You just take, I go online, I transfer money from here to here. Let's say I have a line of credit of $100,000, right? I can use that money any way I wish. I can take the 100,000 and I'm from South America. I can go back home and buy a piece of land there if I wanted to, right? No problem. And then, but you transfer to checking, you go buy the car or the boat or whatever you want. And another nice thing about equity is that you get a lower interest rate, way lower than a normal car loan, because it's backed by the house. So it's a lower risk, so you get a lower interest rate. Okay. So equity is very, very powerful. The more you have in terms of equity, the more you can do. You have freedom to buy stuff. Maybe you buy a second home. Yeah, right, to rent out. Maybe you buy a duplex or something like that. Go for it, right? So equity is powerful and it keeps growing. Anyways, that's a very big pro. And then next is you can modify. You can modify or renovate as needed. So you can do whatever you want. If you own your home, you decide to rip out some walls tomorrow, you go ahead and do it. Take the sledgehammer, start knocking down some walls, renovate. You can't do that when you rent. I needed to ask the landlord for permission to paint the walls. Right? When we had our firstborn, my wife wanted a certain color for the baby room, right? I had to go ask, right? And then the downer was like, if I moved out, I had to paint it back to the white that it was before. So they were very picky with that. Payments eventually stop. The other one, the big one for a lot of you is you can own pets. I'll just do this, pets. You may own pets without asking for permission. For permission or making a deposit. I don't know if you ever rented. If you have pets, first of all, you need to find an apartment that allows pets, right? Not so easy sometimes. Secondly, they'll ask for a significant deposit because if your pets kind of wreck the place, right? They're gonna take that when you move out to replace everything that was wrecked. Right? So that's all I'm gonna say about pros, and then renting, because you need to know this. You need to be able to tell me an advantage of buying a home versus renting. So now I'm going to talk renting here. One of the biggest pros for renting is there are lower startup costs. Okay, no large down payment required. I'm going to do bullets here. No large down payment required. No legal fees. I'm going to call that no legal fees. If you buy and sell a home, you actually need to pay legal fees, right? No land transfer taxes. No land transfer taxes, etc. So you don't need a whole lot of money to get an apartment or a condo or even a house. You can rent a house, right? But you don't need a whole. It's easier to relocate, right? If you want to move and you live in an apartment, it's a lot easier to do that. Okay, since you don't have to sell the property and have no long-term contracts, you can move quickly. If you need to relocate because of a job, you go for it, right? You just move. Yeah, you will say, but Mr. Jackson, you need to find another, because you do a 1-year lease at a time, right? When you rent, I don't know if you know this, you sign for a year normally. And so you kind of need to find somebody, or you need to pay for that year. You're responsible for the year, but it's still not like owning a home. It takes a lot more effort to leave. You need to sell it. You might be locked in with your bank. And then the other pro is lower utility costs. What are utilities? Any idea? Utilities? Water? Hydro, yeah. Hydro, which is electricity and gas. Okay, just so you know, when you say hydro, you pay electricity and gas every month. I think that's, well, cable, all of that is also usually utilities are included as part of rent. Sometimes you have to pay a little bit. Even if you have to pay for it, it's a lot lower than owning a home. A lot. I pay, I think, $280 a month on just hydro. So I split it up evenly across the year. There's a payment plan that you can have instead of paying $500 in January when it's really cold. So I pay $280. When you're in an apartment, most of the time that's included. Right? Water and hydro is included, so it's lower. I think I'm going to keep it there. And so the other one is the formula you need to know is, this is big, okay? To calculate, hold on. Let me, so I'm going to do it right underneath this. I'm going to cut this right there. Value of home. We use this formula. V is V initial. I don't know if that's kind of like from physics. 1 plus or minus rate to the power of years. Plus R means appreciation. That means increasing. The value of the home is increasing. Minus R would be depreciation. Sorry, it's a little small, right? I'm going to try to zoom in. Can't do a whole lot about that. But there's appreciation, it goes up. Maybe you just go arrow. I use those terms all the time, but you may not, right? So if the value is going up, you would add R. If it's going down, you subtract R. This is exactly what exponential functions. We already talked about this before. This is the initial value. Right? And R is obviously the rate, and that would be years. To calculate equity, we would essentially do this. We would use this formula here, and we subtract balance N. Okay. And remember, what goes in there would be years times PY. That right there, this formula is a must on your study sheet. And if you need to have this on top here as well, you go for it, but I would definitely box this one in. So if you want to know how much equity you have in the home at any given moment, you would figure out, well, what's the house worth now after, let's say, 10 years? And how much do I owe them after 10 years? Okay. So allow me to do this to make it clearer. Okay, so this part right here, value of home after X years, okay, and this is how much you owe. Balance owing after X years. This is as much as you have to copy in a long time, right? Your hands are hurting already. Not used to this. I just want to say one more thing. You technically have pros and cons of both right now. I don't know if you see that, but if I asked you, like, what is a downside of buying a home? You would say that it has a higher startup cost. Would that make sense? Okay, because I didn't want to fill in pros and cons, because you can use the pros of this and make it a con for this. Like a downside of renting, you don't build equity. You don't. Right? You do here, you don't there. Okay, so I kind of set it up. You cannot modify or it's not easy to modify or do anything when you're renting. They don't want you tearing down walls. Those could be supporting walls, right? Now you're jeopardizing the whole structure of the building, right? They don't even want you drilling holes, right? Because it can affect the integrity. Renting may not allow pets. It may be harder, or you may need a down payment, a larger down payment, stuff like that. So just use what you know, right, for doing that. Okay, so let's do some math now. Let's go to that example 7. And why is this example 7? Because kind of like the loan section is kind of like they're all the same. There's just a little bit of a twist here and there. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what's happening here. Jose is negotiating with his bank for a mortgage on a house. He has been told that he needs to make a 10% down payment. And the purchase price is $225,000. Then the bank will offer a 3.75% compounded semi-annually at term of 20 years and monthly mortgage payments. Right? It says it here that the payments will be monthly. A is also saying how much will each monthly payment be? Again, monthly payment, right? How much will each monthly payment be? So let's do that. Try to kind of follow the space I take up, because I left this whole page blank for a reason. So N, I, PV, PMT, future value, PY, CY. There we go. So compounding is semi-annually. What is that? Oh, semi. It's 24. No, that's semi-monthly. Semi-annually is 2, right? Payments, we know that they're monthly, so 12. Future value, essentially want this to be 0. We're going to figure out our payment. Present value, you need to be careful. There's a down payment. You notice that, right? So I will calculate that up here. Down payment, in this case, is 10%, right? 10% of the value of the home, which is $225. Okay. So there's a $22,500 down payment. So the mortgage, I will do that here actually. I'll go to present value. The value of the price of the home is $225. I make a down payment. I like to show it right here so you don't forget. Okay. That puts me at $202,500. That is still what you need to borrow, right? That is the loan, that is the mortgage. That amount right there. So you got to take off your down payment. That's what you're putting into PV, present value. Interest rate is 3.75. We are given the time in years, so that's 20 years times whatever is in PY. And so 20 times 12, that's 240. And we know, right, this is 240 payments, but we know that they're monthly payments. So we essentially know that this is how many months it will take us to pay this off. So let's go ahead and figure this out. So what's new here, Mr. Erickson? The down payment, which we did in credit cards. If you watch the video, there's some there. Or a rebate or some sort, right? So let's go ahead and do this. Positive or negative? You're getting this money. So for all intents and purposes, it's positive. Oh, I'm going to make that 0 for now. 12 and 2. Right? So you figure out your payment. And that's 1197.55. Figured that out. Perfect. So that's the payment. That's all you need to do there. For B, I want to go back because we're going to do equity later. The value of the home, guys, the value of the home is 225, correct? At the beginning. Some students think it's this. This is just how much your mortgage is, but the value of your home is still 225, right? You're just bringing down the amount you owe. The bigger your down payment, the smaller your mortgage, the lower your payments, the less interest you'll pay. And it keeps going on and on and on, right? So you need to see those connections, okay? B, how much will Jose have paid off after 12 years? How much will he have paid off after 20 years? So what's the balance owing? So C is the balance owing. I want to do that first. Allow me to do that one first. So balance after 12 years. So you essentially will go 12 years times PY, which is 12, right? That essentially will be balance of 144. That's what you need to type into balance to get the amount you will owe after 144 payments, right? So you quit this screen, apps, finance, balance 144, and it's 99,299.78. No, sorry, 79. Okay, so this is how much you will still owe after 12 years. That's C. Now I will tell you how much will Jose have paid off after 12 years. So you got to be careful here. This will be, I will take the 202,500 and I will subtract what I still owe. Okay. I don't like the order in which they asked, but sometimes it happens. Okay, so you go, I'll just go 202,500 there. So that's 103,200.21, right? This is how much you have paid off. Paid off. I want to stop there. Does that make sense what I did there? How much did you actually pay off? And some of you might be saying, I don't know if you can follow, but you're like, well, Mr. Dirksen, obviously it's just 1197.55 times there's 144 payments I've made so far, right? Like, why didn't I pay off 172,000? Because that's how many payments. I made 144 payments so far of that. But this is interest, right? This is including some of the interest you paid to the bank. So you actually only paid off this much. How did I figure this out? I used the balance I was owing after 12 years and how much I started with, and that gave me how much I paid off. I hope that makes sense. B, how much interest will Jose end up paying by the time the loan is paid off? This is total interest. So you could use this one from the very first payment to the last payment. Let's figure that out. I will just give you that number. Let me see here where it is. There we go. 84,000. 911.64. And now you know why banks love mortgages, because they make a ton of money. And this is a low mortgage. Can you imagine a mortgage of 350, 400,000, right? So that's a lot of money that they're making. I mean, obviously they're not keeping all of this, right? Because some of this is going to the investors that are saving. They're not keeping all of it, but from you, they took this much for interest. That's huge. Or how else can you figure this out? You can use the interest formula, right? Which is N times PMT minus present value. So you could go 240 times 1197.55 minus the 202,500 that you borrowed in the first place. And this is 287,412 minus 202,500, which is, it'll be a little different, right? Your answer will be different. So just make sure you show me your work. So either one of them would be acceptable. If you don't have this formula yet, I would strongly recommend you put that down. I will tell you where this comes from. I may not have mentioned it, but if you go back a few pages, when loans start, let me just see here. I will be back, okay, to this page. You sound like Arnold. I'll be back. I actually don't want you to use this one. This is on page, now I'm in trouble because this one I didn't do, 64. Page 64 has a bunch of formulas here. And this is the interest on the loan right here. This is the one I just used. 64. 64. And right next to it, or you can use interest 1 to n, right? What's the caveat with this one? You cannot use it if n is a decimal. And you know when that's going to be the case? When you're figuring out n, it's usually not going to be a whole number, right? So you can use this most of the time. Also, if you want to find interest just for a portion of it, you got to use this one. If you want to do the whole, right, all of the interest, you can always use this for total, especially if n is a decimal, okay? I think I flipped it on you, n and PMT, but it's the same thing. Okay, back to where we were. I will now introduce, so we did D, we still need to do E here. How much did you pay all together? And this is not a formula that I have given you, but I will just say this. Total would be N times PMT plus if there's a down payment. Right? Like if you think about it, how much came out of your pocket to make this purchase a reality? It'd be all the payments you've made plus the down payment, right? So let's see here. I'm going to just cheat, right? I'm just going to use this one here. 287,412 plus our down payment was 22,500. And that is a whopping 309,912. By the time you're done making that purchase of that house, this is how much you will have paid. How much did you buy it for again? 225,000. After, how long was this? 20 years? You will have paid this much, right? Like if once it's all said and done, and the main reason is interest. The only reason really is interest. But that's what we call the cost of the loan, the cost of financing. um, interest, it's all the same thing, right? Okay, um, let's introduce another one here. I want you to write this down because there aren't enough examples. There are some, but I want to have them early here. If the house appreciates at 2.35% per year, per annum, determine the equity after 6 years. I'm just randomly grabbing 6 years. Okay. If the house appreciates at 2.35 per year, and this is average, okay, how much equity would Jose have in 6 years? Ready? So this is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to set this up. Equity. You might think this is too much work. If you want to do it in steps, be my guest. But the initial value of the home is $225,000. I have to go 1 plus it. Oh, I kind of beat you to it. It is plus, right? Because it's appreciating. Okay. Plus R, whatever R is. Make sure you turn that into a decimal. This is a life lesson, this one right here. If you want to know how much you're going to have in equity in that home, this is how you do it. So 225, 1 plus the rate because it's going up, to the power of 6, right? Because it's 6 years. So you're using that formula, you're slowly setting this up. I'm going to go minus, how much are you going to owe after 6 years? And you're not going to put 6 in here. You're going to go 6 times PY. So that's 72 months. So now I'm going to clean this up. You can just call this E if you want. So I'm going to go, why am I using this calculator? Here, sorry, different course. Here. 225. I'm allowing you to do this in one shot because it's doable. I'm just going to add it up. Sorry, 2.235 like that, right? Like if you add this up, you get 1.0235 to the power of 6. Okay. And then I'm going to hit enter. And the house will be worth $258,648.28 minus. How about we do this here? Balance of 72. Okay, we know it's 72. So we're going to go ahead and go apps, finance. I'm going to pick balance. Balance after 72 months. I'm going to still be owing 156,627.46. And now we have everything we need. It's going to go that number minus. I think this might bite me doing it this way. So I'm going to delete 2 decimals on each. And there we go. I'm going to do it right beside here, okay? After 6 years, Jose will have this much in equity. So careful. I'm not saying he has that money cash, right? He does not have that cash in his pocket or account. But that's a potential. That is the potential amount he would have should he sell the house after 6 years, which the bank sees this as cash in your pocket. They see it like that because they're willing to borrow. I'm not gonna lie to you, they're not gonna borrow you the exact amount. They're gonna go probably 80 grand, right? Still significant, right? So if you want to like add to your house, do renovations, go to Mexico, pay for somebody's birthday, maybe your son or daughter's big 18 or 15-year-old 15th birthday party, right? You've got some money lying around there. I would always say careful, right? Don't think it's like free for all because you have to repay it. Because some people, I know people that cannot retire because they maxed out that amount all the time. And so now they have to pay that off, right? So you got to be careful. Does this make sense? It's a lot, right? The formula is kind of what, right? So I use the formula on the back side, which you will have on your study sheet. If I say equity, you know what to do. I will tell you this, quite a few questions first ask you to figure out the balance up here somewhere. Then I will say, hey, what's the value of the home? And then there'll be another one, hey, what's the equity? So I expect you to know, like, you do this part separately, you do that part separately. I would expect you to know that you have to subtract them to get your equity. Okay? I expect you to know that. So not always will you have to do this in one shot. Okay. G. Are you kidding me, Mr. Dixon? Are you serious? Yes, I'm serious. Okay, so G. Jose is making more money than first expected. Okay. He wants to make an additional $200, an additional $200 per month payment. How much sooner will he pay off his mortgage? This is, I actually want you to do this because this is what I do. Okay, and you'll see the huge impact of you doing this. So let's do the math here. NI, PV, PMT, future value, PY. Again, I'm just suggesting. I'm not saying you must, right? But let's say we have the same loan as above. There's compounded twice a year, payments 12. The future value you want it to be 0. Watch this. The bank, you signed a contract where you now have to, once they figure out the payments, you have to make that payment. But I'm going to make an additional $200 a month contribution, which brings this payment to $1397.55. I hope that makes sense. This is from A all the way up there, an extra $200. So now you're making this much of per month payments. The mortgage doesn't change. The interest rate doesn't change. We're going to figure out N. So grab your app. That's why I love this. Careful. Here we have to make sure we put a negative because we're entering this amount now, and this is the payment that's leaving us every month. So we have to make sure. So I'm going to go negative $1397.55. And instead of solving for the payment, I'm now going to go up and solve for N. Alpha, enter. So that's 192.6872. Okay. For this exercise right here, I'm going to say that's approximately 193 months, right? Because it's years times PY, and PY happens to be in months. So we take the 240 that we originally agreed to, we subtract the 193 that we now would have taken, right? That's the time we need to pay it off because we're paying it off a little bit faster. Okay. That's 37 months. 37 months sooner. So that's over a year, right? So you pay it off sooner, but the best part is actually, what else are you going to save if you pay it off sooner? Crickets? What else are you going to save on? Interest, right? I know you're thinking it. So let's figure out, don't do this on a test, right? But I'm just going to do this here. Let's figure out how much interest we would have paid from the first to month 192. So we're gonna ignore that little bit here for just this one exercise here. I'm gonna go to my main screen and I'm gonna figure out the interest just to save us some time. This is 66,787.52, right? You paid approximately this much interest. So how much will you save? Savings? I will take the interest we paid in, where was it? D? Can you look up there? D is 84,911.64. We subtract 66,787.52. And I'm just gonna figure this out here. 1 second. You saved, look at this, guys. Wouldn't you like to have this in your account at the end of the mortgage? If they could say, hey, if you pay a little bit faster, you get to save 18 grand. Not bad, right? Not bad. This is why I'm suggesting this. I'm suggesting this, okay? When you sign a contract, don't tell the bank, make my payment higher, and then you sign the contract, because then you're obligated to that amount. What you want to do is, this is what I did, and I didn't make this up. Somebody suggested this to me, and I really like that idea. You sign the contract for the minimum payment you must make. Then you tell the bank, set up a second payment. This is optional, of $200 a month at the same time this payment is coming off, right? So you're making essentially two payments. So I call this an additional payment, right? Additional payment. And the reason why I suggest to make the additional payment is, let's say life happens and you need extra money, you cannot afford this anymore. You call them, you email them, say, hey, I want to cancel that second payment for now. I can't do it right now, right? And then they're like, okay, no problem, because you're obligated to this amount. That's the one you signed for. This is additional, above and beyond. You can make this 400 if you can, sure, it's even better, right? But I just wanted to put it out there because I never thought of that, and it's not a good idea to just say, I actually want to make bigger payments, because when you sign the contract with that bigger payment, you're obligated to that now, right? So you just want to stick with this and just set up a second payment. That's all. So now it's out there, and you saved a bunch of money by doing so, right? So you might think, well, I need my 200 bucks. I want to do stuff, right? But if you can say no to a few things, right, and then pay it off sooner. First of all, you're a year and a half done. You're sooner, right? You're done paying off 37 months sooner, and you're saving yourself money. So Once you're done paying it off, this money is now going to stay in your account, right? Once you're done paying it off, this is now going to stay. No more payments required. Okay, that's all I had for you today. There are, right, if you go example 8, 9, and 10, those are all mortgage questions that I would really want you to, I want you to do at least 2 out of the 3. But we're not quite done yet. I think I made a note to add equity questions. Give me 1 second. Oh, okay, example 9. Example 9 says calculate their equity after 10 years, so we're good there. 8, I'm going to leave as is. Example 10, which is on page 75. Okay, there's enough equity. We're good. 2 questions. 2 out of the 3 have equity at the end. We're good to go. The only caveat here, I should probably give it away because what does example 9 say? This house, for some weird reason, depreciates. I don't know, you probably don't remember 2011, 2012. You probably were too young to pay attention, but there was a big recession in the US, right? We felt it too, but the houses actually went down like crazy, like half of the value. So Canadians were buying homes there for investments because they knew like it was going to go up later on, right? So it does happen, but usually it's short-lived. Like it's for some unforeseen financial disaster or maybe war or something like that, right? Like your prices go down, but in general it goes up. But this example does consider depreciation, so watch out for that. So you still follow the formula, you just need to make sure you subtract the rate. Okay. So just to reiterate, page 74 and 75, right? Your homework. 74, 75. All mortgages, that's it. And if you need to catch up from yesterday on credit cards, because I will expect you to know that, make sure you do that as well.